Today's Tanya for the 19th of Teves is in Perek Yud Gimel. It's on page 36. The number at the bottom of the page is 56. In the beginning of the chapter, the Alter Rebbe explains how in the Beinoni there are two judges, not two rulers, but two judges. And the decision is made by the third judge. In other words, there's the animal soul and the godly soul. And then there is God who tilts the scale in favor of the godly soul. And in that way, the Beinoni always does the right thing. But this advantage that God gives to the godly soul is not something the Beinoni can take credit for. This is something that God does for him. And therefore, as far as the Beinoni himself is concerned, he is still in the condition of sin, although he never sins. And that's why he's called Kirasha in the Gemara, where it says that the Neshama is told that it should consider itself Kirasha. It means like a Beinoni. And the Beinoni is described as Rasha-like because of himself and by himself he would be a Rasha. Only because God gives holiness an advantage over unholiness, like light over darkness, that's why the Beinoni is capable of avoiding sin and never committing any. But as far as his own true condition is concerned, he is described as Rasha-like. Now on page 36, 4 lines from the top. Ve'af misha b'teiras Hashem cheftzei. And even if someone would be so desirous of learning Torah that he would study it day and night for its own sake, this would not be an indication that the evil has been removed from its place. Obviously the evil has been removed from his behavior, because all he does is godliness. But from its place, meaning in the left side of the heart, the emotions of the animal soul, we have no indication that that's been removed. Ella yacholi shemahu seviatzmusei ubetakve ubegvirase b'mekayme b'chol hasmoli. It is possible that the animal soul, in its essence, not in its behavior, not in its garments, but in its emotions and intellect, is as strong as it was at birth, and has not been displaced from its place, the left side of the heart, at all. Raksha levushav, and only its garments, which are the thought, speech, and deed of the animal soul, einon mislapshim b'meyach v'hapeh v'hayadayim v'shar evri haguf. The animal soul doesn't have access to the mind and to the mouth and to the hands and to the other limbs of the body with which to do what it desires. And why is that? Mipnei Hashem, because of God's influence, in that God gives the mind control over the heart. So there are 2 ways in which a Beinoni controls his behavior. One is because the mind controls the heart, and this is to some degree a talent that the Beinoni has to use on his own. He has to exercise the control that the mind has over the heart. And then there's the advantage that godliness has over ungodliness, that Kedusha has over Klippa, that makes it even easier to pursue the Kedusha in spite of the Klippa. Just like light has an advantage over darkness in that it dispels it effortlessly. So if the Beinoni is functioning on that energy, on the fact that godliness displaces ungodliness, that Kedusha displaces Klippa, that is certainly to be attributed to God. But even the Beinoni, who uses the mind to control the heart, the Meyach Shalat al Halev, even that talent or that condition, the nature with which we are created, in that the mind controls the heart, that ultimately also must be attributed to God. It might be helpful to think of it in terms of the mind and the heart being stuck in a battle, where the mind says to do the mitzvah and the heart doesn't want, or the heart says to do a sin and the mind doesn't want. the ultimate decision has to come from God. Otherwise, a person can be stuck forever in this battle. The fact that God says not to do it, the fact that God's will is revealed, that gives us an alternative, takes us out of the stalemate, and brings about a decision where no decision would have been otherwise. So God helps the mind control the heart, in that God provides His opinion that breaks the stalemate of the locked opinions of the heart and mind. And that's why the godly soul which is in the mind, it controls the body, the little city, all the limbs of the body, that the entire body should be a vehicle only for the three garments of the godly soul. The godly soul clothes itself in the garments, thought, speech, and deed, that uses the body, and they are thought, speech, and deed of the 613 mitzvahs of Torah. So when it comes to the garments, here the mind controls the heart, not that it can predict or determine, not that the mind can determine what the heart is going to feel, but it can determine what the feeling of the heart is going to result in. Will it express itself in thought? Will it express itself in action? Will it express itself in speech? To that degree, the mind has control over the heart, controlling the heart's expression. But what the heart feels and what the heart wants and what the heart understands, the animal soul, this the Beinoni can't control. But the animal soul itself, its opinions and its feelings, here the nefesh elikis ein lo shlito memshalo, the godly soul doesn't have that kind of control al muhus aviatzmusa shel nefesh habahamis bebeinoni. The essence of the godly soul, meaning the feeling and the opinions of the godly soul, don't have such a control over the feelings and the opinions of the animal soul in the Beinoni. In the tzaddik, the godly soul's feelings have completely displaced the animal soul's feelings. But in the Beinoni it hasn't happened. Except for those times when the love for God is revealed in the heart, at set times, like during the time of davening l'kiyetzeba, which are auspicious and conducive times for the Beinoni to experience a totally consuming love for God. And for those moments, he doesn't feel any ungodly feelings at all. The godly soul, the animal soul itself, not only its behavior, but the animal soul itself has been neutralized temporarily. And even on those occasions, it's not that the godly soul has transformed the animal soul or changed its feelings, changed its opinions. It is only that it controls the opinions and the feelings of the animal soul. It says about Yaakov and Esav, which is also true of Jews and non-Jew, holy and unholy, that one nation will overcome the other. So it's only a matter of overcoming, but it's not changing. comes, when this one rises, the other will fall, etc. And when this one rises, then the other falls. And the Alter Rebbe doesn't conclude the statement, because Kishazeh means the godly soul. When this godly soul rises, when the godly soul is strong, then Zen Neifil, the animal soul falls. Ukishazeh means when the animal soul is strong, then the godly soul falls. So first of all, the Alter Rebbe doesn't want to say that the godly soul falls. He doesn't even want to put it in words, in writing. But more than that, the Rebbe points out that the point that the Alter Rebbe wants to make is that even when the animal soul is subdued in the Beinoni by the godly soul, it doesn't mean that it's changed at all. And the proof is that afterwards it can rise and reassert itself. And therefore what is relevant in this context is only the fact that after the godly soul has been strong, which makes the animal soul fall, it is still possible for the animal soul to rise again, which proves that the animal soul hasn't changed, it's only been subdued. Godly soul marshals its strength to overcome the animal soul, and this is drawn from the source of severity. This strength, this intensity of the godly soul, comes from the source of intensity, which is Bina. Kindness comes from Chachma, and Gvura comes from Bina. When he contemplates God's greatness in the level of Bina, and through this he gives rise to an intense love, like a flaming fire, a fiery love, in the right side of the heart. And this fiery love, which is an expression of severity, intensity, this overcomes the animal soul, the klipa, which is in the left side of the heart, but it doesn't become neutralized, it doesn't become batal in the Beinoni, ela b'tzadik. Only in the tzaddik is the animal soul changed, or at least batal, in the imperfect tzaddik. But in the Beinoni, the animal soul is not batal, it is merely silenced. Shenemar bei, only by the tzaddik, of whom it is said, V'li b'cholul b'kirbi, my heart is empty within me, means that there is no Yetzer Hara, that's the tzaddik. V'humei yizbara v'seinei b'tachlis hasina v'hamiyus, and he despises evil utterly, or he despises it, but not utterly, as described before, the two levels of tzaddik. The perfect tzaddik despises evil utterly, whereas the imperfect tzaddik despises it, but not utterly. But that's all at tzaddikim. Aval bebeinoni, but in the Beinoni, who has overwhelmed his animal soul in the time of davening, and he feels no attraction and no feelings for physical pleasures, who derech mashal ka'adam sheyoshen, the animal soul is in a condition of sleep. And just like a person who is asleep can always wake up from his sleep, same is true of the evil in the Beinoni, the animal soul in the Beinoni, who the animal soul is asleep in the left side of the heart during the reading of the Shema or the davening, when the heart is flaming with a love for God, but after the davening, the animal soul can wake up and reassert itself. Which means that even during the davening, the animal soul really wasn't changed at all. And that's why Rabbah used himself as an example for a Beinoni. He considered himself a Beinoni, although he knew full well that his learning was never interrupted, and that his only desire was for God and for the study of Torah day and night, with a longing and a yearning, a tshuka and a thirst, with a soul that yearned for God, with a great love, as during the Shema and during the davening, and therefore nidma be'einav kebeinoni hamispalel kol hayom. He considered himself a Beinoni who is in the state of davening all day, which means that in fact you can't tell the difference between a Beinoni and a tzaddik by the fact that he davens all day long, or by the fact that he loves God all day long, and that he never hears from his animal soul. Because a Beinoni, who theoretically at least, a Beinoni who davens all day long would never hear from his animal soul, and yet the animal soul hasn't changed at all. So Rabbah, in his humility, considered himself a Beinoni, and the fact that he never interrupted his learning and never had an ungodly feeling, this he attributed to his animal soul being asleep. ukemay merazal, and as the sages say, halavai shispal adam kol hayom kulei, halavai, that a person should daven all day long. What would be if a person davened all day long? What would be the other mitzvahs, and what would be with the study of Torah? So the meaning of it is not that he's actually sitting with a siddur all day long, but that the effect of the davening, or the condition of davening, lasts all day long. So a Beinoni could theoretically remain in the state of davening all day long, and for many days, and yet not have changed his animal soul at all. And therefore he's not a tzaddik, but a Beinoni. And that's why Rabbah was able to consider himself a Beinoni, even though he knew the true condition, or the behavior to which he was accustomed, in that he never interrupted his learning, and he certainly never sinned, and he never experienced any desire for anything ungodly. He could have concluded from this that he was a tzaddik, and that he had no animal soul, but in his humility he assumed that he was more like a Beinoni, only a Beinoni who davens all day long. In the Hayom Yom for the 19th of Teves, the Rebbe writes that Chabad Hasidim have a tradition that goes back many generations, instituted by the Alter Rebbe, that every day we study a portion, a parsha of the Chumash of that week's Seder with Rashi's commentary. And this custom, this tradition, was practiced by the Rabbeim as well.